The Brown Park Podcast is brought to you by Grow Clinics. They're Australia's leading hair transplant clinics, and you can go to growclinics.com.au. Hello.
G'day, mates.
Today's all about an Australian in Hamburg.
Oh, hamburgers. Oh, let's eat.
You're hungry, obviously. His name's Jason Field, and he's an Aussie who lives in Hamburg.
Lives in Hamburg, and he's a model in Hamburg.
Yeah.
An Australian model in Hamburg.
And he's on the show.
The Brown Park Podcast.
Question.
Yeah.
You started out your career in the banking industry.
Yes.
Okay, well, this guest that we're about to talk to did the same.
Very good.
Talk to me. Talk to me.
Okay, so yes, I started out in the bank, and we'll delve more into this when we chat to him shortly. But I had a very weird experience with this. This is going to sound weird, but I had a weird experience with this lady.
Oh, banking all of a sudden got interesting. Go.
Not in that kind of way.
Oh, okay.
There was this lady who I was in a branch with one day, and she came up to me and sort of went, "Hey, can I chat to you for a sec?" And I've gone, "Yeah." And she goes, "Just in private. I don't want anyone else to hear this. I just need to chat to you in private." And I'm like,
how old was this person? How old?
She was
this
older.
lady?
She was older than what I was. Like,
Okay.
I was in my 20s. And so she would have been, I don't want to do her a disservice, but at that stage, probably 40s, I'd say, maybe.
Okay, so you didn't think she was
know.
calling you to the safe?
No,
for
it
some
wasn't.
shenanigans? Okay,
No,
go on.
it was definitely not a shenanigan-based conversation. But yeah, and she's come up to me and she's gone, "I know you're not happy." And I've gone, "Ooh." And like, I hadn't met her before. She said, "I can tell that this is not where you want to be." She said, "And it's got nothing to do with your performance here. Everybody likes you. It's fine." She said, "But I can tell that this is not you."
Oh,
And I went, "Ooh, okay. This is interesting." And she goes, "There's going to come a period of time very soon where you're going to be faced with a choice." And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she goes, "I can tell what's going to happen in your life. And I have psychic abilities." And I'm like, okay, not being a massive believer in that kind of stuff.
mm-hmm.
And she said, in a short period of time, you're going to have a choice, and your choice will be a crossroads of your life. You will have a choice of either leaving the bank,
Mm.
and where that leads, you won't know. And it will appear that there'll be no money in it.
Right.
She said the other choice will be to maintain your career at the bank. And obviously you'll be on the money, you'll have the money. But she said,
secure a job.
Yeah, she said, "But I can't stress to you when this moment occurs." And she said, "And it will become very obvious to you when it occurs, take the no money option.
Okay.
Don't maintain your banking career."
All right. So when did the crossroad present?
I was made an example of over a
Oh.
very, very, very minor error
Mhm.
that cost the bank nothing, but the manager at the time decided to make an example of me. And I had the choice of whether to stay on at the bank, and I would have to take a demotion as a result, or quit and have nothing.
Oh.
And I
Yep.
quit and had nothing.
Then what?
Well, now I'm here.
Now you're here.
Really didn't fucking work, did it?
The Brown Park Podcast.
Jason Field, welcome to the show.
G'day, mates.
Thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
You're in Hamburg. So you bide your time between Hamburg and Sydney.
I do, with a little in-between buffer zone of Bali.
Oh,
I know
get
it
out of
sounds
town.
very privileged to say that, but Bali has always been a very safe place for me. So Hamburg is where all the work is done. Sydney is where home is, where family is, where friends are. And then often when you feel overstimulated from one or the other, then I try and have a little bit of time in Bali as well. So don't forget that one. It's a big part of my story.
We went to Bali last year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After everybody raved about it for ages, we packed up both our families and we went on a group holiday to Bali.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get Bali.
I do. I love it. I love it.
I understand it is one of those ones where it's 0 to 100. I've got friends who stepped foot there and they said, never coming back. it's dirty. A lot of the sand is black. There's a lot of traffic and all this kind of thing. They pictured sort of Thailand or something, and then they arrived and didn't get it. But it's been a place for me that there's just this unmatched energy. The people that are attracted to go there as well generally have a sense of openness. And I don't go to Kuta. I went to Kuta when I was 17 and I had too much to drink down there. But I tend to go up to sort of Canggu area or Kudungu. It's getting a little bit more busy up that way these days. And I can surf. I can have amazing food. I can connect with people that love to talk about yoga and meditation and healing. There's a modeling industry as well there, so I can actually work while I'm there. So it sometimes pays the bills. So it's a place that I think I've probably gone 20 times and I've found my little place. I've found the spot that serves me. But I hold nothing against you for having your opinion. I've got friends that hold exactly the same.
Well, we went to Kuta.
No, we didn't. We stayed.
Don't do that.
Well, we didn't. Okay, so I went to Bali when I was, I want to say 20, and I went to Kuta with a mate, and it was the biggest party you've ever seen. Like it was fabulous. This time when we went back with two families, we're quite a bit older now. We stayed out at Jimbaran Bay. So and we went into Kuta twice just to do shopping and buy out Rolexes and things like that. But Jimbaran Bay was, I mean, for me, I loved it. It was a nice sitting on the beach watching the sunset. I felt fully relaxed. But Christo over here likes the finer things in life. So unless somebody's there wiping his bum or giving him soft massages.
Don't forget the massages. Yeah. But that's the thing as well. It's a big place. So it's like when people say to me, I mean, I know you guys are up north, but when people say to me, oh, I didn't like Sydney, and I'm like, where did you go? And they're like, oh, I stayed in the center of the city. And I'm like, I don't like the center of the city. Get out. Head down to the south coast and all that kind of thing. Yeah, that's where I like hanging. Like the middle of the city does nothing for me, and people hold their whole opinion of a city of 5 million people on 2 weeks smack bang in the middle. So you got to find your place.
Yeah. So how does a Sydney sider find himself in Hamburg?
Okay, I'll try and keep it short, and I'll leave little Hansel and Gretel trails for you to jump in if you like.
Okay.
But I worked in banking. I just tried to follow the path of middle-class, suburban, white picket fence, 2-story house, pool kind of existence in Sydney. My grandfather was a butcher on one side and a builder on the other side. We didn't come from means or anything like that, but sort of rode the trail as everyone did to, my dad worked hard to get into sort of middle management and all that kind of thing. And I just sort of follow that path, and especially from a situation in which there were moments of scarcity and all those kind of things. And I can reflect upon that and my mum's sort of direction of saving money and making our clothes and that kind of thing. I felt like I had to follow a particular path. Yeah. And that was just working really hard, studying and all that kind of thing. And I think the lowest hanging fruit for a lot of people in Australia, at least, is law or banking or real estate. A lot of the boys in real estate as well, and girls naturally too. But I went the banking path, and I spent about maybe 5-6 years in finance. I finished up in private banking, and I burnt I don't know where we're allowed to swear on.
You can swear away, man.
I burnt the fuck out, honestly. We can delve into that exact moment maybe afterwards or whatnot. But basically, I went to Bali, and that's why I stressed that point of bringing that into the conversation, because I pulled the eject cord. I went to Bali. I met a whole bunch of people in the creative industry there, and I was like, these people are having fun. Like, is this what life can be? Can you actually have fun? Because I just nose to the grindstone, working your butt off. And met some people there in the modeling industry. And I wish I could say it was an overnight success. It took me another 2 years of making no money and staying in share houses and all that kind of thing. But Germany is the place that my profile works after trying a whole bunch of places around the world. And here I am in Hamburg, the commercial capital of the world, in my opinion. They shoot that many commercials, it's not funny, and I'll take the money.
Yeah.
It's a whole lot of fun as well, naturally, too.
Okay, so tell us, what was the moment that you pulled the eject cord? Tell us about it.
I didn't make the decision, as some of the mentors that I've been delving into, especially the last sort of 2.5 years, have used. So I'll steal their words. My body said no. I literally woke up one morning and I could not drag my bones out of bed. I was physically shaking. The idea of opening my front door just scared the bejesus out of me. And at that time, it's just confusion as well as fear, right? Like you're saying to yourself, come on, like be a man, like put a suit on and go to work. You got to pay the bills, you know? But I understand now, and looking back and having a whole lot more different perspective on things, I'd worked myself into a state of hypervigilance and overwork and people pleasing and all this type of thing that because I couldn't present boundaries, my body literally said to myself, if you're not going to go out into the world and set a little moat for yourself and work out the stadium that you're going to play in, well, I'm going to hold you in your house until you do.
Yeah.
And I wish I understood that then completely, because it took me another burnout a few years later to actually verbalize that. But that's what it did. And I never went back. I wish I could say that it was a big meme-like episode of walking into the office and like, F you, motherfucker, you know, like you won't
We've all
do
dreamt
this to
of
me
that
no
moment.
more.
Yeah.
Yeah, everyone dreams of it. Throw the desk and the paper and all that kind of thing. But it was just full of shame. I just couldn't go in there. I sent a message and said, I'm super sick, and I emailed it. I couldn't even pick up the phone. And again, like they to your nervous system, the workers that you're with, I understand that now. They're the lion that was chasing me. But at the time, you're like, why can't I like make a phone call, you know? But it was basically a week of just email, guys, I'm still sick. And then shamefully again, at the age of 25, 26, I got my mum to actually ring up and say, he's in all sorts. I'm taking him off to the psychologist. He won't be coming in. And they tried to get back in contact with me and say, oh, come on, like we'll work this out and all this kind of thing. But for me, it was just, you know, wipe their hands and just, I'd burnt out. I don't know what the hell is going on. I didn't have money in the account, but it's cheaper to live in Bali than Sydney. So I just skedaddled, and that's characteristic of my life as well. I tend to use a bit of escapism. But I went to Bali and just ate rice and stayed in a homestay that was dirt cheap and tried to figure out what the hell's going on with the life. Yeah.
It's funny because sorry, Dion.
Yeah, no, I was just going to go straight to you there, Christo, because this is similar to your story there for a bit.
Oh my God. It's okay. So I too worked in banking, and I too hated my fucking life. And I started out on the front counter, you know, counting money, being a cashier, all that kind of stuff. And I loved that, customer facing, chatting to people. Nice. I got moved into the home finance where I was having to look after home loans and shit like that. I was out of my depths, didn't know what I was doing. And same thing. I just wasn't mentally cut out for the pressure at the time of what they put on us was just phenomenal. And this is going back quite a while, but the pressure that we felt then was sell everything at any cost. They didn't care. Yeah.
No, it hasn't changed. Like, I mean, there's different things that make it satisfy the regulations and whatnot, but there were things that happened that don't align with my authentic self. Let's put it that way. And so you carry that burden with you and you think, holy moly, like, yeah, I get a paycheck, but how much are you willing to take? And again, putting some therapy words on top of that, that's baggage we pick up.
Yeah. So I remember one time we were sitting in a meeting and we had to ask, we were informed and it was not negotiable. You had to ask, questions of the customer that makes them doubt their life, and had to lead them into the pathway where they felt compelled they would need life insurance, or home and contents insurance, or some form of insurance. You'd have to ask questions that make them doubt that they're going to be financially stable if something was to happen to them. And like this was forced upon us. And I remember going home going, this is ethically wrong, and this is not what I want to do for my life.
Yeah. It's a big switch. I mean, that's driving your advertising based on fear. I've now gone full 180 and I'm going on desire, which is a much more fun place to go. There's still some authenticity issues on that side of things as well. But when you go those primitive emotions, you're turning off their cognitive mind, right? And there's a play. I mean, I tried hypnotism recently. We can talk about that as well. But there's aspects of the human nature that if you look behind the curtain, there are tools we can use to manipulate people, but the cost of doing that is, it's not free. Let's put it that way.
Well, you found Bali. I found my wife.
Oh, that's beautiful. I hope that was in your wedding speech.
Is she behind you right now? Get out of town.
No, she actually can't hear me right at the moment. But she was the one that sat there and said, "You are just so desperately unhappy. Why the fuck are you there? What are you doing? Go and chase your dream." And I did.
It's surprising when you're stuck in an environment that doesn't please you, the flow-on effects of that as well. That spillover that happens. And you look, and even just a lack of reflection, because for you, that's a fantastic ending in that you are able to then prioritize what means more to you. And I have done full circle and worked that out on a family and a friendship basis. But at my time, I was so distracted from the mayhem that I was in a long-term relationship that there was no love. We were just friends. We were good friends. But we weren't lovers, and we were just following the path again, going full circle from how we started. That middle-class existence of growing up and getting a middle management job and marrying the girl from school and having a kid and a dog and all that kind of stuff. I was very close to falling in that hole. And rinse, repeat, intergenerational trauma would have been bestowed upon whatever kids I end up having in this life. It's just fantastic that I was able to find that gap, and my body found it for me and said, hang on, let's just take a check in here. And then all of a sudden I started reevaluating my whole life, and I was like, whoa, what other aspects I've been blind to? It's madness.
Brown pot.
What's going on with your hair?
No, just had a haircut today, like an hour ago.
Oh, really?
And I wasn't sure what to do with it, so I said, just leave it long, because I don't know what I'm doing yet. I'm thinking I might go slick back or something at some point. I don't know. See,
Because you can.
I have options.
Yes, and it's all thanks to Grow Clinics, who are proud sponsors of this podcast and also of our heads.
Who ever thought that we would have head sponsors?
Yeah, I don't know. Let's get it tattooed across our forehead. If you've ever thought about getting your hairline done, give Grow Clinics a call. They have offices all over the place, and you can do them online as well. They offer free consultations online by going to the website growclinics.com.au/Brown Park. So what do you think you're going to do with your hair?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Mohawk.
I mean, I have legit thought about
mullet.
Imagine rocking into work with a mullet. That would be
somewhat. You should mullet it up.
I still don't mean. Look, though the opportunity is there, sometimes you don't have to explore said opportunity. You can just let that go. I don't. Just do not get the mullet. Don't get it.
Now, if you do have a mullet though, and you're finding that your business on top is slowly growing backwards,
going into recession,
then you should go and have a chat to the team at Grow Clinics as well. And if you're not ready for a hair transplant, they've got plenty of other options that they can discuss with you, as well as the hair transplant. Growclinics.com.au and get your mullet fixed.
The Brown Podcast.
So after you discovered Bali and left the bank, how did you then get into modelling, and then we'll go on to where you're at now?
Well, he's a rooster. Yeah, Look at him, would you? Like, it's pretty clear.
Mate, I love sharing images from when I was young because I was a late bloomer. I was a bit of an ugly duckling. I was blessed with my grandmother's eyes. They're the money makers. But I was, cursed with acne, and I was a bit of a chubby kid. I had the puppy fat for a while, and I was the shortest kid in school, and all that kind of thing. So I never had my looks as a part of my self-worth. It was my studious and work ethic. So I worked my butt off to try and validate myself. I always had this mantra that I would actually say, and it's helped me a lot in trying to unwind some of that, where it was, let your work speak for you. But that just completely negates that a lot of the world is based on human relationships, right? I thought if I just do something, then people will finally accept me and I'll get my just rewards and whatnot. But I was in Bali and I saw some of the modeling industry that was going on there. I met some photographers. I saw some commercials be shot. I met some talent. And then someone said to me, like, oh, you're on stay here. You're on stay in Bali modeling. And I'm like, no, I burnt out. I'm trying to find myself like everybody else. Eat, pray, love, you know?
Do you want a home loan?
yeah, exactly. I can sort out your private banking needs, you know? It's nuts. And they took a few photos playing around. They had a camera and whatnot. And I held on to them. I didn't pursue it there, but another part of the story that I haven't actually been straightforward with was what I fell into as a coping mechanism was currency trading. So I said to myself, I don't need the bank. I played around with currency trading when I was at the bank, and I was making a few $100 here and there. But in a bull market, anyone makes money, right?
Yeah.
And then it's a big lesson to learn, isn't it?
Yeah. So you can see where this is going. All right.
I see all the crypto nuts going at the moment. I'm like, oh, you're all going to get swept out. We'll see who's standing naked. And when I went to Bali, I was like, oh, I've got this, like I'll just apply the same system. And I put the work in. Like I definitely had a system, but what I didn't have was emotional stability. So your emotional stability provides you the focus of how you see the world, right? And to see these opportunities flow through and have a positive expectation mindset and all these kind of things. So I lost a bucket load of money in Bali, and finally mum called me. She tried a couple of times. I had friends try a couple of times, but the physical boundary of being in another country I used to my advantage, but actually my disadvantage. And my grandfather was quite sick, and she's like, I don't care anymore. Like, you can tell me that this is going to come off as much as possible, but you got to come home. And I bought you a ticket and you're coming home. And that was what I needed at the time, just having that reconfirmation of being part of the family. I thought, again, if I succeeded, I would achieve that. But really, it was just a perfect display of unconditional love and being able to hold my grandfather's hand and listen to some stories as he eventually passed away a few weeks later. Then I'm sitting there going through grief and all that kind of stuff. And a few of my mates work in the construction industry. So I started throwing the shovel around, and I was like, this is not for me. And it was like, time for print. If you come, we'll give you some photos and you can have a good time. We'll use the photos for our advertising. So I had the photos from Bali. I then went on that job and had a great time at the beach. They were shooting some stuff, and they said, oh, you got a natural knack for this. You're so happy. And I don't think I was naturally happy, but I was just happy to forget about my worries.
Yeah.
But I had these couple of images, and I reached out to an agency in Australia, and they were kind of interested. And when I realized they were interested, my escapism went on fire. And I messaged. Yeah. I messaged again, this is like information that I haven't readily been honest with, but I don't care now. I messaged about 150 agencies around the world, and 5 came back to me. 2 were serious. Both were in Germany, and 1 ended up taking a punt on me. That was in Berlin.
Yeah.
And it changed my life. So I came over. I didn't make any money for 2 years. As I said, I was living in share houses and struggling to pay the rent, eating €1 for 3 Turkish croissants. Turkish croissants, not French croissants. French croissants are good. Turkish croissants are crap. And eventually it worked out. So, like, there's all these signposts along the way that life is trying to give you a nudge in a particular direction. And who's to say this was the final destination? I've been questioning free will, and we can go into that in another time as well. But I think that those, as my therapist always says, the teachers you needed.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of teachers I needed.
Yep. And then there was one point, I read part of your story. You went to the psychologist with your mum.
Yep.
Can you tell us about that? Because you were having fits.
Yeah. I still don't know anyone that has had the same experience as me, but I generally have that with a lot of things in life. I've always considered myself a bit of an outside the box in terms of feelings of life. Or I take a Panadeine Forte. I mean, you guys know what Panadeine Forte is. I say that in Germany, and they're like, "Oh, what's that?"
What's that?
I took that just from getting my wisdom teeth out, and I go on a high. Like, I'm absolutely plastered. And I tried magic mushrooms. It had the craziest trip out of anyone, and all these kind of things. So I'm quite sensitive. Yeah, not in a good way. Not in a good way. I was not willing to be in this world anymore. So I'm trying to get myself in a place where I can try ayahuasca, but I'm not ready yet.
What's that? What is it?
You don't know what ayahuasca is?
No. What is it?
Oh, go down the YouTube rabbit hole. Apparently, the meaning of life is revealed to you, but you've got to have a shaman. A lot of people go to Peru for it, but it's available in many places. But
what's it called? So how do you spell it?
ayahuasca. I think it's AYUA. Oh man, I've never won a spelling bee challenge.
Ayahuasca.
AYUASCHA, something like that. I got to visualize
Does
it.
7-Eleven sell it?
No. This is some pretty sketchy stuff. This is on the
Dark web.
realm of leaving reality, and whether you come back or not is not trivial.
Sounds like quite the risky little game we're going to
Yeah.
play.
Yeah, well, this is why I'm trying to set up my foundation in which I can lean upon.
You actually
delve
haven't
into
met Dion before, because Dion will now go on a wild goose chase to find this. And one night we'll be sitting there and we'll go, "Hey, mate, remember how Jason said, do you want to try ayahuasca?" Man, I've
just
got
had
some
some.
off the dark web. Look at this. Let's fucking go.
It's in your drink.
Yeah. You enjoy your coffee this morning?
Yeah.
Anyway,
A lot of people say they have some profound experiences. So go down the rabbit hole, and maybe by the time we speak again, I've done it. But basically, I'm ultra sensitive to things. It was my important point there. And I went to a psychologist first up. My mum dragged me in there because I was having these fits. And as I was mentioning to you, I hadn't heard anyone, and my mum thought I had epilepsy. We went to the doctors and they said no, but I would literally, my whole body would begin convulsing. And the only thing that calmed me was often going to my mum's house, just that primitive mother care. And it was obviously scary for her. This was off the back of the burnout. I didn't go to Bali straight away. This is before I went to Bali. My parents had split up when I was an adult, which was just something I hadn't processed. I lost a mate through a tragic motorbike accident. So there was a lot of processed nervous system energy going on. And especially if it got on the drink, but it wasn't isolated to the drink, but especially if I got on the drink and, it shuts off the neocortex or whatnot, then my body would just release this charge, which I'm reading a lot more about in this Peter Levine, An Unspoken Voice. We can talk about that another time as well. And we were trying to get answers around this. We're trying to get answers about, why am I on the floor for a start? And then let's rewind a little bit. Why could I not handle work? And I walked into the first place, and she was not helpful for me. Now I can understand where she came from a little bit more, but she was very, very white coat. I got my degree, but I've never felt what you're felt. Let's try and solve you by giving you a box to put you in and a prescription to write. And so it didn't serve me the first time. I've had a fantastic experience with my therapist since that, which was my second round. But he's a surfer. He has alpacas. He's got he lives in on the coast on a farm. He's a yogi. He does my yoga routines as well.
He actually sounds like he would have access to ayahuasca if you're looking.
I believe he's done it. He helps people on the trip back. That's one of his healing processes. Is he helps people from big trips on ayahuasca and mushrooms and all that kind of stuff. But he's right tapped into like the forefront of that holistic language and seeing that things can be held in there. And again, I'll leave some Hansel and Gretel breadcrumbs for you to pick up. But I've had some experiences in which finding safety within the body, I've released things that I didn't know I had and all that kind of thing. So that first experience was necessary for me to open up the dialogue of assistance that I can't do it myself for someone that was fiercely independent.
Yeah.
But something that I still am dealing with anger towards that lady, because I didn't find my next therapist for another 5 years or something like that.
Jesus.
Like I was like, screw you, like you don't work. I'll just go back to doing what I'm doing.
Which wasn't working. Yeah.
Yeah, which didn't work either, right?
But you have to find that one therapist, particularly in like I've battled depression, but you need to find the one therapist that works for you, because I went through one and sat there, and he realized that I do a radio show here on the Gold Coast, and he was like, "Oh yeah, so can you publicize my boat?" And I'm like, "Are you fucking kidding?
Yeah,
I'm here. I'm here to look after me. I don't want to go on a boat cruise with you."
If you get to the stage where you're feeling like you don't have a place in life, and unfortunately I've recognized that in myself a few times, you've got to build up that sense of trust in someone, and it's got to be unconditional, no matter what comes out of your mouth or what's required of you. Like there can't be this little, I'll do this for you if you do that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It just needs to be that embrace, like a mother. but with the language and the tools to build you up. Because unfortunately, we don't live in a village anymore, you know?
No.
So to put all that pressure on my mum, she was already just trying to make ends meet and, sort after herself and all that kind of thing. And for me, knocking on a door at 3 o'clock in the morning as a 25-year-old, it's a pretty scary endeavor. And I think that some people are out there doing exactly the same thing as in any industry, right? They're looking out for their own interests. And you can get stress psychologists. And they are trying to look after themselves and they want to get their brand out there and they want to make the most money and all this kind of thing. And it's like, hang on a second, we've got to connect on a very human basis. And when I found this guy that plays the didgeridoo and all that kind of thing, like my connection with the land is something that's always held me steady. And when I heard him say some things, I'm like, brother, like I'm on your wavelength. Like we can talk now. Like I'm not being judged by some lady like looking over a clipboard,
Yeah. Yep. So is he over there in Hamburg or is he back here and you?
No. He lives in, I forget the name. Is it not Yamba?
Bangalow. I bet you Yamba or Bangalow.
Yeah, somewhere up there. Yeah. He moved because he was just north of Sydney and then now he's up like the North Coast and we do it all via Zoom. He's super flexible. He goes on retreats. So often we're crisscrossing around the world. His girlfriend or his wife is a yoga teacher as well and he helps her with retreats. So sometimes he's like at some random festival in like, well, not festival, but like Burning Man or something like that. But he's like in Joshua Tree with like all super earthy hippies out there that have no electricity and crap in the woods for a week and all that kind of thing. And he's got his Zoom set up. He's like, hey, mate. And I'm like, what the hell are you doing right now? And he's like, oh, we've got 12 of us and we're really getting in touch. I'm like, sounds good, man. Credit to him. This is the craziest thing. Like when he's been like that, where he's in Tasmania or he's in Bali or he's in America and all these kind of thing, I've wondered, I'm like, oh, gosh, like how does he show up? But that's the crazy thing too. He's been through the journey. And I had a friend recently, shout out to Tom Wiley, a legend that I met in Bali. He said to me, and he's going through his own healing journey, you can only go as deep as they have been. And if you've got a psychologist that's read it in a piece of paper and is just learning to cognitively diagnose you and give you from their bookshelf some kind of prescription, they don't know what you're going through. And when I said to him, dude, I'm paralyzed with anxiety, I experience depression, I've got these panic attacks, I can't walk out the door. He goes, yeah, me too. And I'm like, oh, yeah, but I live this weird life where I'm a model and I've got to be in front of a camera and I hold this like whole idea of myself that I can show up and be the entertainer and that kind of thing. It's like, yeah, I used to base jump off mountains in Switzerland. Like then one day I couldn't walk out of the room and pour himself a glass of water. And as soon as you have someone that's been from A to Z, not only can I believe in him, but he recognizes me much quicker. And he goes, like, if I start spinning out the verbal diarrhea or just excuses or whatever's going on, he just goes, can we take a check-in, Jace? And I know what's going on. Oh, right. Hang on a second. I'm riding the adrenaline train, you know?
Damn you for calling me out of my own bullshit.
First time it happened, I was so defensive. I was like, you don't know me.
Oh, wait a minute. Yes, you do.
But he actually does, yeah.
Yeah, he does, yeah. Carbon coffee, my friend. Carbon coffee, yeah.
Brown Park.
This podcast, the Brown Park podcast that you're listening to right now, is proudly supported by Grow Clinics.
Thank you, Grow.
I was at a function with a bunch of people, and people are always very wary about asking me about their hair. And I am an open book. And I had somebody gingerly come up and go, oh, I just want to ask you about your hair, but how do you feel about it? And I've gone, I feel great. I have hair.
I've got confidence. I have hair.
I will shout it from the rooftops, and I will shout the name Grow Clinics from the rooftops as well.
There's a song in that somewhere. I also caught up with an old customer of mine yesterday, funnily enough, and he goes, whoa, the hair. And I'm like, yeah, I had a hair transplant. And he goes, does it grow? I'm like, yeah, it grows. I mean, and I, pulled my hair back and I said, yeah, it grows like normal hair. He's like, well, that's so weird. I'm like, it is weird, but it's something that is a thing now.
Well, I also had somebody say, so where did they get the hair from? Is it fake or is it real? And I'm like, no, it's from the back of my head.
Nowhere else. It goes to curly if it's from somewhere else.
growclinics.com.au. Go there and check it out.
The Brown Park Podcast.
So at what point did you then decide to take this online and start talking about it publicly? And I mean, you've got your podcast and you've got a public profile for making light of the situation. You're humorous with it. But at what point did you go, you know what, I'm going to share my journey and see where this takes me?
I think it's twofold. One fold, I feel like I have an enormous debt to pay to those random acts of kindness that I've experienced in life that have talked me off the ledge, so to speak. I'm a person that can isolate very, very quickly. And it's so hard for me to re-engage. So those spontaneous moments of someone seeing through you, and whether it's in Bali, and I remember this, I still speak to him, this guy Florian from Belgium. I would ride past on my scooter, just absolutely off my mind, and probably just lost a bunch of cash on the markets and all that kind of thing. And I'm trying to like figure out what the hell's going on. And he rides past and just smiles and waves and like stops. And I'm like, what, he wants to speak to me? Like we just had a small chat out in the surf previously. And it's like, hey man, like he's so slow and relaxed. And this is a guy, he used to work, as I said, he's Belgiumish, whatever you call that.
Belgish,
Belgianese.
Belgianese. He's done work for the Saudi Arabian Reserve Bank, like set up their infrastructure electronically and all this kind of thing. Like he's a smart dude, but when you're with him, he's so present and he's just like, how are you today, man? And I'm like, oh, wow, that hurts. Like, yeah, I'm okay, like you lie. And he's like, come, let's just go grab a coconut down the beach. And like he owes you nothing. Like we'd spoken like 3 words of like, oh, nice wave, man, or something. But he saw through me, And I think maybe he's had his own journey. We haven't like unpacked that completely. And there's a number of people in my life that have done that, where I've latched on to mentors that didn't serve me. And especially I use this word introvert because I think it's important to differentiate who needs to be talked down and who needs to be talked up. Yeah. I had a whole bunch of YouTube people screaming in my ear, you got to want it as bad as you want to breathe, like Eric Thompson stuff and all this kind of thing. And that's fantastic for people that are lazy, lacking motivation and sleeping in, all that kind of thing. I didn't lack motivation. I was up at 4:00 in the morning, sleeping 2 hours or not sleeping and all that kind of thing. Whereas I needed someone that was calm. I needed a mentor that said to me, I understand you. You're overstimulated. You need some space to feel. Isolating is healthy to a certain degree as long as you set some boundaries and some conditions to reconnection and all this kind of thing. And so I said to myself, like, you know what, like life's short. Like I lost my grandma last year. And again, you start reflecting upon the shortness of life. And I was like, if there's little Jace at 17, like especially now, like so many of them are hooked in on gaming and all that kind of thing.
Yep.
If I just flick up on someone's screen where there's me and I model and I largely have like the success that I was looking for, and I can say like, this is me and I can also do this and these are the tools that I do it with, then maybe I help someone else, like that's the altruistic basis that it comes from. And then the self-serving basis is every time I reflect on things and I have to dig into it and explain it to someone else. Like they say, you only really understand it if you have to really teach it to someone else. I learn new things about me. So by giving myself that discipline of saying, I'm going to write, now I'm a little bit short on time with the travel and whatnot. I was doing it kind of every week when I had a bit more time in Oz. But now I'm probably going to be doing it once, twice a month where I just pick a topic, dive into my notes and just, be super candid. And I've received some fantastic feedback and people that have said, I've never heard someone speak like that.
And I mean, I want to touch on Florian when he was cruising past you and stopped. There's something in it when somebody is truly present and willing to connect. You can feel it, and that changes everything.
Yep. Yeah. It's a huge one. And I mean, touching on what you said there as well, like I have a lead magnet strategy of memes. It helps me laugh at myself too. I think laughing at our problems is a great way at taking some of the shame away from them. So I do some general stuff, but I try and dig into some introverts and people pleaser and all this kind of stuff as well, where if you have a good laugh at yourself, then it doesn't become the skeleton in the closet. I think that if you can bring things to the surface and then be able to hold that out and give it the respect it deserves rather than running away and all that kind of thing. And that's what I think he did that day. I think he and many other people along the way, like it blows my mind, even people at a coffee shop and all that kind of thing. So I really try to be that person where you look and you go, I see where you are right now. I see your words, but they mean this. They're only a symbol for this disturbance that lays below you. I can take 10 minutes of my life or 15 minutes of my life, and maybe that stands there as an emotional post-it note that it did for me,
You ever thought of being a therapist? Because you're very good.
Dude, I got enough baggage to take on. People told me that as well. They're like, oh, you should go into therapy. I'm like, I'm still trying to put down my bags. I can't take on anyone else's,
Yeah, but you'll resonate with a few people, though. I mean, people like you.
Well, that's
who
why
I
I think
resonate
it's
with.
social media. If you use social media, and especially Instagram, TikTok requires a little bit more work. I started sharing on there first. I actually have a bigger audience on there, but now I think Instagram is becoming a little bit more relatable. So I've given that a dig. But I think that if you use that network effect and you create some boundaries between it, that it doesn't overcome you and you don't define yourself by it and all that kind of stuff, then you can have those discussions without taking on the baggage. And that they're the boundaries I need to set for myself, because otherwise burnout number 452 is down the track.
It'll be around the corner.
Well, I was going to ask that with you, because you've got a good profile online. Yep. Do people come at you, or is that just something that you're able to just now, because you've done so much work, just deflect and go, nah, fuck you, whatever?
I throw you back to the first discussion from that psychologist that I didn't enjoy. She said to me, and I said this in my podcast when I was reflecting upon it, she said, how can other people turn up to that office space? Like, how many colleagues do you have at your level? And I'm like, oh, there's like, I don't know, 20 people of like my title. So how can 19 other people go into the office and you can't? And I stood there. I was like, motherfucker, how dare you make me feel so small? Like, let's get me to safety first, and then we can start having the honest chat. But I do understand where she's coming from, but I think she went, at least for my personality type, a little too deep, too fast. It's really important for setting yourself a positive relationship with things. And so for social media in particular, I just have to have a very clear mission where I say, basically, it's drop and run. Like, I rarely open up my DMs, and my close friends get annoyed. They're like, bro, just like answer my message. Like, you got like priority, general requests, all that kind of thing. Like, if I get a viral video, I can get like 400 messages in a day. And you're like, there's no chance. Like, you no chance you're going to do that. I get a bunch of emails because I do put my email onto a few different things. I am more disciplined with that because I find that the effort it takes, there's enough friction there that, like, for yourself, Dion, like when I got that email, I'm super happy to jump on there right away.
Yeah.
But for example, those kind of things, I set very clear rules of engagement. I'll post something, I'll then engage with like the first 5 comments, and then I close my app and I am doing my own thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I know a few people in the industry that define themselves through that profile, and they you can't sit in a conversation with them because they're just like, they're checking there. Oh shit, I got a bunch of likes and all that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean shit. Like, your greatest experiences in life is not going to be, I got 100 likes on a photo, is it? It's going to be like, how fucking cool was that?
Yeah, but it's a validation piece.
You know?
It's a validation piece that some people seek because it's just so easy and right in front of you.
Temporal, man. How temporal. You get it. And I've gone through that.
What do you mean? I'm just checking my likes. Hang on, just hold on.
You know what? It needs a dislike button.
Yeah.
So then
it's classic.
So then tell us, I mean, you seem like a pretty happy model, and then the modeling industry tends to get a bad rap, or that's what you see in media quite often. What's your experience within the modeling industry as a man, and what you see for the opposite sex?
Man, I would not like to be a female in the industry, tongue twister, because they have a whole lot of requirements that they must meet. I wouldn't like to have done it from a young age.
Mm-hmm.
I came in at 26 or something like that. So I had my version of my life, and these roadmaps are built so young, right? So my whole life was identified through my work ethic. So when I'm on set, that still triggers. Like, I want to make sure I'm getting back to like Mark 1 and all these kind of things. I'm ready for whatever needs to go on. But I think that when people experience their first, especially with social media now, feeling of social acceptance, no matter how temporal, they latch onto it. And it's the drug they get addicted to. And like, if anyone else has experimented with any type of drug, or especially cocaine and whatnot, your baseline's very quickly rise. You have your first hit, and it's all about recreating that adventure that you first try. And so for me, thankfully, my cup of life, unfortunately, was work. But on the other side, thank Christ, I was able to identify a feeling of this is life with nature and with surfing. If I'm there is nothing else that fucking matters, you know? And naturally, like you get a 2-wave hold down and really nothing else matters but your next breath.
Been there before.
But I think, it's
He's a surfer. He's a surfer.
Yeah.
Mate, you have to be up in Queensland.
I've copped a few on the head of Kira, and I've been down for quite the period of time thinking, am I ever going to come back up from this one? And voila.
But how nice is that on an ego check? It's fantastic. It doesn't matter. Like here, there's a lot of status in what you wear and what car you drive and all that kind of stuff. And it's so cool in surfing. You can rock up at the beach and you come in your BM. You've got your fancy wetsuit and your brand spanking board. But Mother Nature does not care. She'll knock you on the head.
She'll beat that kook down real quick.
Yeah, kook's name's what I want. It's fantastic. But yeah, going back to your question, I think for me it was fantastic. I came in later. I had to really, again, it took me 2 years to really find my profile. But over here, there's a lot of companies that are owned by the Germans. And I love once you get past the initial, there is some sort of certain, what do you say, rules of engagement, if I use that word again, to get by just socially, that they aren't the sort of chat straight away like we tend to be in Australia. But once you get past that, they're there for you no matter what. And I do enjoy working here. It is a fantastic place to be, and there's fantastic opportunities. Like I have done a few fashion shows and all that kind of stuff, but it's not like the Milan walking down with the Armani suit that you might see. For me, it's a lot of TV commercials. There is a bit of e-commerce for the fashion brand. It's a whole lot of fun. Like it's not Zoolander. Let's put it that way.
and what's it like being an Australian in Hamburg?
Yeah, it's to my advantage. If you're looking for an X factor, like my girlfriend she is a model as well, and she has the X factor in Australia. So she's German. And she has that ability to go into Australia and be like, hey, I've done Chanel, I've done Versace and all that kind of stuff. She's more fashion. And they just eat her up. She does not stop working in Australia. And it's and she still works phenomenally here, but the industry is so large anyway. There's a lot of opportunities. Not to say that she wouldn't work anyway. But here, it's a nice X factor. As soon as you open your mouth, apparently I look German. And then I open my mouth and they're like, hang on a second. And it's a reason to stop the casting video, you know? Like if I'm doing an e-casting at home, it's a reason to stop and go, what's this guy doing? He's riding motorbikes in Bali and he's surfing and all that kind of thing, where maybe a stereotypical German guy is a little bit more formal and he probably likes his car and all that kind of stuff. Then you have something to talk about. And I always say, I'll finish off with, I was told by a nice guy at the bank, he said, mate, there's a certain barrier you've got to get to where people believe you can do the job. And the final hurdle to get over is, can they put up with you while you do the job? And that's that little X factor. I think that if you have that story of being an Australian, they can work with anyone. There's a whole bunch of guys that look like me. In the casting room in Cape Town, I walked in, there's 20 guys that looked exactly like me. I'm like, has my dad came down here like 30 years ago and just...
Is that why they got divorced?
It's mental. But the little X factors, and once you find them, then you really have to exploit them. Yeah.
I've got to find mine. I'm still working on that.
46, you'll get there. You'll get there.
46, I'll get there at some point. I don't know.
Man, look, we could talk to you for ages. You've just led an interesting life, and I love your take on life, and I like the fact that you can not only laugh at it, but you can delve right into it as well. And that's what you do really well on not only on your podcast, but also on your Instagram and your socials and stuff like that. Where can people get hold of you? What is the podcast for those that are listening right now?
Yeah, the podcast is, it's on every platform and all that kind of thing. I do it video based. I think that's, as you guys are doing as well, it gives us a lot more of an emotional engagement with the audience, and you can put it on YouTube and all that kind of thing. But the easiest way is my handle on Instagram, Jason Field, Field, like the playing field. It surprises me how many people do it the other way around. Then I have a link to everything, and you can find me.
Thank you so much. Oh, look at us. We've done this before. Look at that. Yeah.
Synchronicity. That's my catchphrase for 2023. You guys are on the bandwagon. But I appreciate your time. I feel like this is only just scraping the surface, so I'd love to do it again sometime.
Oh, let's do that, and we'll do it after you've done some ayahuasca.
Ayahuasca, yeah.
Oh, can we catch up once you get that down pat, and then let us know, and then we'll book in with a yogi down in Yamba and go on a little self-exploratory trip.
I'll come back with coconuts on the boobs and a little fern skirt, and I'll be telling you I've got the meaning of life under my tongue.
Well, Jason Field, thank you very much for joining us on the show, man, and we'll chat to you again soon.
Thanks, man.
Sounds
Appreciate
fantastic.
it.
Have a great day.
See you, buddy.
Brown Park.
That was a surprise.
Yeah, what a legend. I want to get him back on the show at some point to chat more and go deeper.
He's got so much more he wants to talk about, and I feel like we just scratched the surface.
Yeah, but that's what a good guest does, leaves you wanting more.
So this will be part 1, and then part 2 will come up next season.
Yeah, at some point we'll get Jason Field back on once he's tried the ayahuasca. Ayahuasca.
He'll be a different man. He may not even want to talk to us by then.
Probably not. And I hope we haven't made too much light of what this is. And if anybody knows, please reach out and tell us about it, because we know nothing about it.
This is very true. We've made jokes about it, but it could be something pretty hardcore. So
yeah.
We remove all liability from anything we said in that previous episode. And as you were, seek your doctor's advice before taking ayahuasca.
Or your shaman, as he was saying.
Yes, have a chat to the shaman.
Yes.
I don't speak to enough shamans.
No, neither do I. We should try and get a shaman on the show. Shaman on the show? There we go.
The shaman show.
The show shaman. Anyway,
let's get out of here.
If you're listening to this podcast and you like it, please rate it on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or whatever. Please give it a thumbs up. If you don't like it, please don't. And also make sure you check out our website, brownpark.com.au. We will catch you next episode. Thank you.
Scratch you later.
Why are you happy?
Because I don't want to be sad.